So the UAW has said that the big three automakers are the one true enemy. This kind of bothers me. So welcome back to All Cars, y'all. I am John, and let's have a little conversation about this because, well, the contracts between the UAW and Ford, GM, and Stellantis are all going to be wrapping up here in September. So both sides are laying the groundwork for what's going to happen, and the UAW is looking for better pay, better benefits, and critically, job security. We're going to come back to that in a minute. And I want to kind of talk about all of this because I really hate that the UAW president has said this. It feels like a massive step back for labor relations in America. It feels representative of the problems we have here in America. And that's with someone whose, my opinion of the UAW and of unions overall has changed with time. And I want to kind of talk about that. Now, the UAW has a new president, Shawn Fein, and actually at his inaugural address back in March, he told his members that the big three were the one true enemy and to prepare for war. And it kind of bothers me, if I'm being honest with you. See, I was earlier one of those people that blamed the union for many of the problems that existed in the U.S. auto industry for a long, long time. And I have changed my opinion. They are not totally faultless. But as I've gotten older, as I've matured, and as I've learned more and more about the history of the auto industry back to probably the 70s or so, I've slowly changed my opinion. They've consistently been part of the problem, but also part of the solution to a level that I think management isn't usually. See, if you're old enough, you've probably heard that old phrase, never buy a car that was built on a Monday or built on a Friday, because either the workers are thinking about the weekend or they're still drunk from the weekend. And you can always hear stories out there about line workers that had cases of beer at their station and crumple the can up and throw it in the door, things like that. Or they were disgruntled, so they would hang washers in the door. These are rampant stories. And it got worse during the 80s because Roger Smith, the head of GM, liked to blame the union for everything, blaming their high wages on why American cars weren't competitive and saying, look how much less the Japanese manufacturing workers were making, ignoring the fact that the Japanese worked much more efficiently with fewer workers and their benefits package was much, much better, generally raising the compensation to being pretty equal to what the Americans were getting. But it's interesting that through all of this contentious relationship, I've come, in looking back in the past, at seeing the management as being the problem. Sure, they were making massive more money, and Roger Smith specifically was very guilty of demanding concessions from the union while paying bonuses to executives. At the same time, it was the executives, their programs, that allowed things like the North Star system to be developed at an incredible cost, but still released before problems were uncovered. Things like that. There's innumerable examples of this happening, which I believe are process problems being dictated by the management, not necessarily at the worker level. Then in the 80s, early 80s, when they had the Pontiac Fiero project, that plant actually worked under a team concept, much like Toyota, where quality was put first and where management at the factory level and the workers worked together. And it worked extremely well. Famously, Saturn built their whole business around treating workers well and making them integrated to the process to produce a high-quality project. So there's lots of examples where the union, when given a chance and given that responsibility and backed by their management, produce excellent products. It's when management treats the unions like crap. And here we are, as we've got this new UAW president spoiling for a fight, looking to raise his profile, looking to make a mark. He's a new president, so he's got to go make a mark, and getting his people ready for war. I just feel that's wrong. The industry is facing a lot of nearly unprecedented, not quite, but unprecedented change right now. This is as big a seismic shift as the 70s with the change in safety and in the emission standards, with the Japanese starting to really gain a foothold here in the U.S. We've got the shift to EVs, whether you support it or not, it's coming, and you've got other manufacturing, primarily from China or, and to a lesser extent, maybe Vietnam, starting to move here as well. The industry is under assault, and they're going through a generational shift, while the labor side is saying they're going to declare war. Now, a lot of this is purely posturing on labor's side. They're trying to position themselves relative to management. But thankfully, Bill Ford stood up and just the other day and was like, absolutely, I'm sorry he said that, because as long as I'm here, we're family. Well, I'm not sure about that, but he also did say that he's been involved in every labor negotiation since 1982, and this is part of the process of staking out your ground. It just bothers me that it's happened this way. But I think a big portion of it is that job security thing. I think the compensation, I think the benefits package, I think that's just part of the standard negotiating, and certainly in an inflationary environment like we have, I think we all could agree and understand where they're coming from. But there's constant and endless talk about EVs doing away with jobs, that the move to EVs is going to require less workers at the plant, and therefore, bye-bye workers. But it's interesting, a couple of different comments on this, and then I'll be wrapping this up. I appreciate you being here, because number one, Mary Barra over at GM just announced that the big full-size SUVs and trucks are being redesigned. They're going to be gasoline. This will carry well into the 2030s, so those workers are going to have guaranteed jobs for probably 10 or 15, maybe more years as well. So she's heading it off by saying, look, this is our product plan. You guys are going to have jobs. Second is, I did a video where actually it never got a lot of views. I'll be honest with you, because I don't know what to title it or how to push it out there where people understand what the darn video is about. But Tesla is working aggressively to slim down manufacturing, make it faster, use less pieces, use less manpower to put everything together. Well, at the same time, Mercedes switched their factory building an SUV from gas to EV, and they originally just set up a little EV portion because they didn't know what the demand was going to be. But the demand was so great, it ended up spreading, and they found out they needed the same number of workers. So here's the concern, and I see where the UAW would be very, very concerned about this. On the one hand, an innovative, upstart, nimble company like Tesla is stripping down and really trying to use less workers, simplify manufacturing to increase productivity and profitability, throughput in the manufacturing. But then Mercedes, a legacy manufacturer, is saying, oh no, we need the same number of workers. And over here, you've got Ford and Stellantis and GM. As they move to EVs, where are they going to go? Are they going to aggressively slim down and simplify production so they need less workers, which saves them money, but the UAW doesn't want it because they want that guaranteed employment? Or are there going to be another legacy manufacturer that says, yes, we're going to guarantee these 100,000 workers a job, and leave them less nimble and less competitive in a world that's, I think, going to possibly accelerate past them? But instead of coming to the table and saying, we understand what's going to happen and what the industry is facing, how can we, labor, and you, management, work together? Labor is staking out a position of, you're the enemy and we're going to fight you. That's the same attitude that previously in the past has helped bring down the quality, not exclusively, okay, understand me here, helped bring down the quality of the materials, the quality of the construction, lengthened out development times to try to get a few more pennies out of every single car they make. I think this is the wrong attitude. I really do. If the UAW is like, we're going to fight, but we recognize the industry is changing and that if we want jobs, we have to be part of it, that's the right approach to me. Because right now, as more and more manufacturing has moved away from America, in spite of the Biden administration and their Inflation Reduction Act of giving rebates to try to pull more manufacturing here, I think the UAW is shooting themselves in the foot with that kind of attitude. Hopefully it's just posturing. I really, really hope so. But if they get 100% employment, they get benefits, they get wage increases, it's just going to make Ford, GM, and Stellantis manufacturing in America that much less competitive. Thanks for being here, guys. Appreciate you listening to me rant. Let me know your thoughts below.